Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into a book that's been on my list for ages.
Oh, yeah.
Aldous Huxley's Brave New World.
Classic.
Absolutely. And I'm so curious to get your take on it, especially because you had it on your must-read list too.
I did. It's
Well,
it's a book that's really stuck with me.
what is it about Brave New World that you think makes it so fascinating and so relevant, even, almost 100 years after it was written?
I think it's, well, a couple of things.
Yeah.
I think Huxley was really onto something with his vision of a future
Yeah.
where happiness and stability are kind of prioritized above everything else.
Right.
And the more you dig into it, the more disturbing that idea
Yeah.
becomes.
Yeah, it really makes you question, like, what is the cost of that kind of stability?
Exactly.
What are we giving up in exchange for this, perfectly ordered world?
Totally. And I think that's what makes it so relevant today.
Yeah.
We're seeing those same questions pop up around things like technology, social media,
Mm.
even politics.
So let's dive into that world a little bit. For someone who's maybe never read Brave New World before,
Yeah.
what are some of the key elements of this world state that Huxley creates? How does it actually function?
Well,
What makes it so different from our reality?
okay, so first of all, forget about natural birth.
Right.
In this world, babies are grown in hatcheries,
Okay.
and they're genetically engineered and sorted into these 5 distinct castes.
Oh, wow.
You've got your alphas, your betas, your gammas, your deltas, and your epsilons.
So it's like he's taking social hierarchy
Yeah,
to a whole new level.
absolutely. And each caste
Right.
is conditioned from birth to accept their place in society.
It's like they're eliminating any possibility of social mobility or even questioning the system.
Right, there's no room for ambition or individuality in this world.
So how do they maintain that control?
I mean, it's partly through technology, but not in the way we might immediately think.
Okay.
It's not just about surveillance or censorship.
Yeah.
It's about engineering desire. So, for example, they have these things called feelies.
Feelies?
Yeah.
What are those?
They're like movies, but way more intense. You literally feel the emotions of the characters.
Oh, wow.
It's totally immersive.
So it's like taking virtual reality to a whole other level?
Exactly. And that kind of constant stimulation, it keeps people distracted and entertained.
Oh, wouldn't that be overwhelming?
You would think.
Like, where's the space to just think or to process your own emotions?
Well, that's where Soma comes in.
Soma?
Yeah, it's this perfect drug.
Okay.
No side effects,
Yeah.
and it instantly erases any unpleasant feelings.
So if you're feeling sad or anxious or lonely,
You just pop a Soma and poof, it's gone.
wow.
So you have this combination of intense pleasure from the feelies
Yeah.
and then instant mood regulation with Soma.
It's like they've created a world where people are constantly experiencing things, but not necessarily processing them.
Right, it's all very superficial.
So what does that do to a person?
That's a big question that Huxley is asking.
Yeah.
Like, is this really living? Or is it just a form of escapism?
It's like that saying what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but in this world,
Right.
they've eliminated all the killing.
All the hardship, all the struggle.
So are they really living or just existing?
And that's where the characters come in. Because Huxley populates this world with these really interesting figures who each embody a different reaction to the system.
Okay, so who are some of these characters that we should be paying attention to?
Well, there's Bernard Marx. He's an Alpha Plus.
So he's at the top of the hierarchy.
He should be totally content,
Right.
but he's deeply unhappy.
So he's like a glitch in the matrix.
He's,
He sees through the facade, even though he benefits from it.
and he yearns for something more, something genuine.
That must be so isolating.
Definitely.
And then who else is there?
Well, there's Lenina Crown.
Okay.
She's initially presented as kind of the ideal world state citizen.
Oh, so she just accepts everything.
She embraces casual sex. She pops Soma. She spouts all the hypnopedic slogans.
It's like she's almost a caricature
Right.
of like modern day influencer culture.
Yeah, constantly seeking pleasure and validation.
But I have a feeling there's more to her than meets the eye.
There is, as the story unfolds, she starts to question things,
Interesting.
especially when she meets John.
John.
Yeah, the savage.
Okay.
He's grown up on a reservation outside the world state.
So he's like the ultimate outsider.
He represents a completely different way of life.
And how does he react to the world state?
He's horrified by it.
Oh, wow.
He sees it as shallow and corrupt.
So his arrival is going to throw things into chaos
For sure.
because his very existence challenges everything the world state stands for.
And his presence forces the other characters to confront the limitations of their own existence.
Okay, so you've got this tightly controlled society, these characters who start to see the cracks,
Yeah.
and this outsider who throws everything into question. What are some of the big ideas that Huxley is exploring through all of this?
Well, one of the central themes is this idea of the price of happiness.
Okay.
Like, is it worth sacrificing individuality, freedom,
Yeah.
even deep emotion,
In exchange for...
a life of comfort and stability?
It's like he's asking us to really think about what we value most.
Exactly, because if happiness becomes something that's manufactured,
Yeah.
something that's controlled by the state,
Right.
then what does that mean for our humanity?
And that ties into the whole role of technology, too.
Absolutely.
Because it's not like Huxley is anti-technology, but he's warning us about its potential to dehumanize, to control.
Yeah, to manipulate.
Like in the world state, they use technology to engineer desire, to make people want what the system needs them to want.
It's almost like he predicted the rise of things like social media algorithms.
Targeted advertising, all of it.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how much control do we really have over our own choices?
That's a scary thought.
It is, especially when you see how easily people can be manipulated.
And how easily they can be distracted from the things that really matter.
Exactly, and that's the danger that Huxley is highlighting.
So we've got this world, we've got these characters, we've got these big themes, but there's one thing that we haven't talked about yet that I find particularly unsettling.
What's that?
The complete absence of God in this world.
Right.
They've completely eradicated any belief in a higher power.
It's like Mustafa Mann says, God isn't compatible with machinery and scientific medicine and universal happiness.
That's chilling.
They've made a conscious choice to eliminate faith and spirituality from their society.
Wow. I'm really curious to see how John, with his strong religious upbringing, reacts to this godless society.
It's going to be a huge clash of worldviews.
It has to be.
And with that clash, things are bound to get interesting.
So we've got this tightly controlled society characters who challenge the status quo and this fascinating outsider who embodies a completely different way of life. What happens when these forces collide?
Well, without giving too much away.
Okay.
Let's just say that things don't end well for everyone.
Oh, no.
John's journey in the world state is a tragic one.
Okay.
Full of conflict and heartbreak.
But I'm guessing it raises some really profound questions about what it means to be human.
It does. It forces us to grapple with the nature of freedom, the meaning of happiness, the limits of human control.
I can't wait to dive into all of that with you in part 2 of this deep dive into Brave New World.
It really makes you think about what we're willing to sacrifice for the sake of comfort and stability.
Right, because in the world state, they've eliminated suffering.
Yeah.
But they've also eliminated
a lot of the things that make us human.
Exactly.
Like passion and creativity and the ability to really connect with other people on a deep level.
And it's not like they've completely gotten rid of desire.
No, they
just kind of channeled it.
Redirected it.
Yeah, towards things that maintain the stability of the system.
Exactly. They've got entire departments dedicated to predicting and shaping people's desires.
It's like that scene in the nursery
where
they're conditioning those babies to love new clothes and hate old ones.
It's chilling.
It really is.
It's like he's saying, look, this is how easily we can be manipulated.
Especially at a young age.
Yeah, when we're most impressionable.
But isn't that something we still see today?
Oh, absolutely.
Like with advertising and marketing?
All the time.
They're constantly trying to create new desires. Make us feel like we need the latest gadget or the newest fashion.
And they're really good at it.
It's scary how effective it can be.
It makes you question, like, how much of what we want is really our own desire.
And how much has been implanted in our minds by external forces.
Yes, that whole nature versus nurture debate.
Right. Are we really making choices, or are we just products of our conditioning?
And that's something that both Bernard and Lenina grapple with.
Especially when they encounter John.
Yeah, he's like a walking embodiment of everything they've been conditioned to reject.
He's passionate, he's spiritual, he's willing to experience pain and suffering.
And he sees their pursuit of comfort and pleasure as a form of weakness.
So he's a threat to their entire way of life.
Absolutely.
Because he represents a different possibility.
A different way of being human.
And they can't handle that.
No, they try to silence him, to marginalize him.
But his very presence exposes the cracks in their system.
He's a reminder that you can't engineer away the human spirit.
So what happens?
Well, like I said before,
yeah,
things don't end well for everyone.
Okay.
John's journey in the world state is a tragic one.
Tragic in what way?
Well, I don't want to give too much away.
Okay.
But let's just say that he faces a lot of heartbreak and disappointment.
So it's not a happy ending.
No, not exactly.
But I'm guessing it's a thought-provoking one.
Oh, definitely. It raises some big questions about the possibility of individual resistance.
Against a system that seems all-powerful.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if it's even possible to escape the forces that have shaped us.
Or if we're all just destined to conform.
Those are some heavy questions.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
But that's what makes Brave New World such a powerful book.
It forces us to look inward, to question our own beliefs and values.
And to consider the choices we make every day.
Because the world state might seem like a distant dystopia.
But are we really that different? That's a scary thought.
It is, especially when you see how easily we can be seduced by comfort and convenience.
And how easily we can be manipulated by the forces around us.
So it's a warning as much as it is a story.
A warning about what?
About the dangers of sacrificing our freedom and individuality in the pursuit of happiness and security.
And about the importance of staying vigilant and critical even when things seem to be going well.
Exactly, because the world state might have achieved stability.
But at what cost?
And that's the question we're left with.
It's a question that's more relevant now than ever.
I think so.
Well, I'm definitely eager to keep exploring this with you in part 3.
Sounds good.
We'll dive into the ending of the book and see what ultimate conclusions we can draw from John's tragic journey. You know, it's interesting because when I think about the world state's idea of happiness, it just seems so superficial, so empty.
Right, it's all about eliminating pain and discomfort.
But what about all those other emotions?
Exactly.
The ones that make us feel truly alive.
Ones that give our lives meaning.
Like love and joy and even sadness and grief.
They've kind of medicalized the whole human experience.
Yeah, it's like any kind of negative emotion is seen as a disease.
A disease to be treated with soma.
So in their attempt to create this perfectly happy society, they've actually eliminated something essential.
Something that makes us human.
And that's what John represents. That capacity for deep feeling, for connection, for meaning.
And that's why he's such a threat to them.
Because his very existence challenges their whole worldview.
He's a reminder that you can't just engineer away the human spirit.
Right. You can't control every aspect of human emotion.
And that's what makes his story so tragic.
Because he's ultimately unable to change the system.
But he does expose its flaws.
Yeah, he makes us question whether this kind of happiness is really worth the cost. And that's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Especially in our own world,
Absolutely.
Where we're constantly bombarded with messages about happiness and success and self-improvement.
It's easy to get caught up in that pursuit of perfection.
And to forget about the things that really matter.
The things that make us unique.
The things that give our lives meaning.
The things that connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
And that's what I think Huxley is trying to remind us of, that true happiness isn't about eliminating all the bad stuff.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
The good, the bad, and the everything in between.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in the midst of all the chaos.
And it's about connecting with others on a deeper level.
Exactly.
So even though John's journey ends tragically, I think there's still hope.
There is.
Hope that we can learn from his mistakes.
And make different choices.
Choices that lead to a more authentic and meaningful life.
And maybe even a better world.
Well said.
Thank you.
It's been a fascinating journey through Brave New World.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. I hope it sparked some new ideas and some thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds engaged.